Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rams Review podcast. And we've got one final lowdown for the summer on Derby's 13th and final signing. So it's Brereton Diaz, and he is on loan from Southampton. So I'm delighted to say, joined by Steve Grant from the Total Saints podcast. They're at Total Saints Pod on socials, Total Saints Podcast on YouTube. Steve, how are you this morning?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, the sun's poked its head out, so it's not too bad.
Excellent. So yeah, just to kind of kick off discussion about Derby's first ever Chilean player, believe it or not, which feels a bit surreal to say that someone born in Stoke. Um,
Yeah,
how has his time at Southampton been? What have you kind of seen of him? Obviously, he's been out on loan in that time as well.
yeah. I mean, look, I'll be brutally honest. It's been a bit of a disaster. It's I don't know how I don't difficult to tell how much of that is his fault and how much of it is just systemic of where we were as a football club last season. But like when we made the signing about a week and a half before the start of the season. 7 million euros from Villarreal. He'd been on loan at Sheffield United in the Premier League for the second half of the previous season, and scored 6 in 14 for a team that was dreadful and finished bottom and comfortably bottom. They were basically relegated by late March, I think it was. So you look at that record in a struggling team and you think, well, we're likely to be down towards the bottom. I mean, we didn't quite foresee how bad it was going to end up, but certainly we assumed we were going to be sort of in the mix down there. And a player with that sort of scoring record in a team that doesn't create that many chances against good opposition, you thought, okay, that looks like sensible value. And that was kind of added to when, on his debut in a friendly against Lazio, 3 minutes in, dribbles in off the left wing and bends one in the far corner to put us 1-0 up. You think, oh, okay, this looks good. You then come to the start of the season away at Newcastle, and I mean, probably the only thing people are going to remember about him for Saints is probably him getting Fabian Schär sent off about 25, 30 minutes into that opening day of the season. I mean, Cher was absolutely brainless to get involved in the thing in the first place, but he basically headbutted Brereton in the face and got himself sent off. Um, and that gave us a huge advantage in a game that we were playing quite well in anyway. Um, and I mean, we ended up somehow contriving to lose that game 1-0 to Newcastle's only shot in the entire 90 minutes. But it kind of gave everybody a little bit of confidence that we could compete at this level. But the problem was that kind of everything kind of spiraled a little bit from there. In result, I mean, performances were as a team were generally okay, but the we were making individual mistakes. And there were certain aspects of the team that just didn't feel right. And unfortunately, Brereton Diaz was one of those where we were playing him kind of as the left of a front, sort of a front three, although it was kind of left of a midfield five for the most part when we didn't have the ball. And just wasn't really getting involved in games. There wasn't. Um, I mean, we weren't getting the ball out to his wing very much, and when we did, he was being closed down a little bit too easy. And in the end, I mean, he started the first four league games of the season. I mean, we lost them all, but they weren't. It wasn't like we got battered in them. We were in all of those games for long periods. Um, but yeah, he started those first four and then didn't start another game after that, and it all kind of fell by the wayside, unfortunately. And part of it was obviously Russell Martin's system perhaps didn't suit him as well as the system at Sheffield United had the previous year. Um, Perhaps even the system had kind of dragged other players in the team into um, sort of areas that were then not getting service up to the front guys, and that then became a kind of recurring problem. So we needed to bring in different types of players, like Tyler Dibbling, for example, was a sub to start with for those first three games. He then came in to start the fourth game against Man United on the right, and Brereton Diaz was on the left. But in the end, effectively, Dibbling more or less took Brereton Diaz's place. And given what Dibbling was able to offer us in terms of being able to retain possession, dribble the ball, and get us up the pitch as a team, um, his kind of attributes were more valuable than Brereton's were at the time. So he just kind of faded from view really, and then like on the very rare occasion he'd get like a 15-20 minute run out in games. It just looked as if his confidence had already been absolutely battered, and there was just nothing there. It was like, I mean, you could have literally put a kid from the academy out there, and they'd have done no worse. That was it, which was unfortunate. So it does just go to show how the kind of the intangibles, and I mean, you can have all the talent in the world, and he's clearly a good player. He's got a good record, especially in the championship. Obviously, he had that one season before he went to Villarreal where he got more than 20 for Blackburn. So it's not like he can't do it at this level. Um, he's as I say, he's got the record, but just the sort of mental side of the game when you lose the I guess lose the focus and lose that sort of morale, it can kind of spiral out of control a little bit. So obviously, he ended up back on loan at Sheffield United for the second half of the season. Seemed to do okay. They had an option. They had an option to buy at the end of the season, which I imagine they probably would have taken if they'd won that playoff final. But obviously, they um, soiled themselves in the last 15 minutes of that game at Wembley, and Sunderland went up instead. So I don't think there was ever really any chance that the Blades were going to spend 7-8 million quid on him to play at this level, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems a story of a player needing the right environment, that bit of support to recapture his form. And I think that's something we've seen for a few of Derby's signings this summer. I mean, Ryan Brewster comes to mind first and foremost. Even Carlton Morris to an extent after a dip last season. So you don't get a move to Villarreal without having some pedigree. You don't hit over 20 goals in this league and lose that quality completely. So I think that's encouraging. What from what you've seen, what would you say his greatest strengths are that we can maybe look out for? I know it's obviously been a difficult time, but
Well, I
what could you
mean,
see him
yeah, I mean,
doing well?
ultimately, from what we've seen, there's very little to go on. To be honest, I would go back to looking at his spell at Sheffield United the year before, that second half of the season, where you could see when he had his confidence up. He's big and strong. He's decent in the air. He can hold the ball up, and he's got that little bit of game intelligence in terms of knowing where his partner should be and playing a little pass around the corner into that space. And obviously, it's interesting. You've obviously got Ryan Brewster, who he would have played with at Sheffield United um, in that in that season. So there may already be a little bit of an understanding between those two. So that might prove quite fruitful for you. Although I imagine Morris will probably be more of a regular starter. But it will be interesting to see whether those two can kind of sort of reforge any sort of integration and understanding again.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at some numbers here, he does have, as you say, aerial ability, 93rd percentile for aerials 1 per 90. Very good clearance numbers as well, which kind of surprised me. Um, yeah, I mean, his underlying numbers for goals and XG per 90 are still really high for the compared to attacking midfielders and wingers over the past year. So I think there's signs that in the right system he will recapture that form. What is the sort of purpose of this move and goal of this move from the Southampton side? Is it for him to recapture form, potentially come back into the team, or is it just to get some value so that he could maybe be sold on for a decent chunk of money?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter, to be honest. We've got four centre forwards as it is. We've signed two wingers, and we already had Ryan Fraser and Jay Robinson who kind of play those wide forward roles as well. So we have kind of an abundance of riches in those attacking areas now. And as a result, yeah, he's way down the pecking order. Probably wouldn't even be in the matchday squad now after all the business of the last few weeks. So yeah, it is ultimately going to be a case of hope he does well this season for you guys. I don't think I'm not sure there's an option to buy figure in the deal, but it's one of those where you would imagine if he does all right and you've got the finances that come this time next year, then maybe he's someone you might throw 4 or 5 million quid at, and we'll say, well, we'll take that, thank you very much, and cut our losses. Although that would be more or less breaking even really for us. I think, which frankly, given the output, I think would probably be seen as a good bit of business, really.
Yeah, I think it would. It'd be one of those you'd have to look at and go, do you know what? It's not worked out, but we've
Yeah,
we've kind of recovered it, and just hope he goes well and does well somewhere where he really has recaptured the form. That's something we need to see. I think him now, again, as I say, another one of those players who you feel just needs to be loved a little bit and find that
mm,
right environment to play football again. Maybe break back into that Chile team more consistently as well. I'm sure is amongst his goals. But Steve, thank you very much for your time to
no
speak
worries.
to us, and good luck for the season, mate.
Yeah, cheers you too. And obviously the loan means that you won't be able to score against us this season, so that's always a bonus.
Yes, of course, brilliant. So that is what 4th of October at Pride Park, I believe. He will have
Yep,
to be in the stands. Yes, so thank you very much to everyone for watching, and all that's left to say is up the Rams.